remember what men are like, and remember what patriarchy teaches men, and that they are unlikely to be as amazing as you think. Hi, I'm Summer Tothill. Every week on my Instagram, I run a Q&A with my followers. They ask me their questions about how gender equality and oppression is affecting them in their world, and I answer. If you join me on Instagram, you can take part in the Q&A, ask your own questions, get your answers, get involved. Is 38 too old to start over? I've made so many mistakes relying on men and not taking care of myself financially. You know, I had to answer this one because I have skin in this game. Personally, I am 39 and divorced. So if you just want one data point, I am living proof that 38 is not too old to start over. So if you just need one success story, I'm it. But I'm sure you have seen so many examples of divorced middle-aged women or women much older than me who are just absolutely living their best lives, who may have had similar challenges to you, who may have even been more emotionally or practically or financially compromised than you. Women's lives do not only manifest as worthy within a relationship with a man, and often starting over without the burden of a hetero-romantic relationship and all those attendant expectations within it is actually the best thing that could possibly happen to a woman at any age. So I'm quite excited for you to be able to start over. And I note your wording that you did not take care of yourself financially. And I just want to say that there's no need to blame oneself for that as a woman. We are set up with this idea that when there are times in our lives when we're not earning, men are supposed to take care of us financially. We are not facilitated to take care of ourselves, and we are not protected. The financial aspect is hard to face because much of our wealth and prosperity as humans of any gender is based on financial and investing decisions we made decades ago and the compounding benefits of the same. And you can't go back in time and start a high interest savings account or make investments or sign legal documents that would have put you in a different position today. So I recommend getting educated and following some of the financial and economical experts who keep women's circumstances in mind. Some I'm thinking of are The Financial Diet. She talks more broadly about finances. The Financial Feminist is an American podcaster. Just keeping in mind some of her advice isn't that practical to Australians because Americans don't have things like superannuation and offsets on their mortgages. So that does make a difference to the decisions that you can make financially. I also really like Girls That Invest. That's a Kiwi podcast that thinks more from a millennial perspective. And at 38, you are an elder millennial. And I also really like the Australian Finance podcast. All of these podcasts help you to think more positively and with hope and practically about how to recover financially from having to start again at that age. You don't want to be in this position again, but believe me, you can have a positive and productive and wonderful blossoming in your starting over. How can I, a woman with ADHD, stop hyperfocusing on men who have done no more than be kind to me? This is such a great question and one I think lots of people will relate to. I can relate to it. I don't personally have ADHD, but I am close to a number of women who do have ADHD, and I actually have to know a fair bit about ADHD in my workplace. So hopefully I can give you a sensitive response. But I do really want to say, despite not having ADHD, I think this is actually a really relatable phenomenon. I absolutely hyperfocus on men when I'm romantically interested in them, particularly at the beginning, and I think probably tons of women do. So I think for starters, I just want to say, don't beat yourself up for hyperfocusing on men who are nice to you, who you might be interested in. I think that it's great that you have even recognized that you have this problem, but I'm going to give you some tips. I honestly think that knowing that you are hyperfixating on a person that you're romantically interested in or have a little crush on is half the battle, because then you can do a bit of soul searching about why this is happening. So I think the question to ask yourself first, or the thing to examine, is why are you needing that dopamine hit so badly? Because I don't know about you, but I am much more likely to hyperfocus and fixate on someone or something when I am finding that it is lifting me out of an existing funk. So I think if you can look honestly at yourself and look at the situation you're in and examine why you're not getting your dopamine and your serotonin and your good feelings and your occupation of your mind elsewhere, that can help you to be more objective with your fixation. So the next step then obviously would be to try to find other meaningful things to focus on and other sources of those happiness neurotransmitters in the brain that you are currently using this hyperfixation on a man to feed, right? So one thing I would recommend to anyone, but specifically women and straight women, is to have like the most full social life with friends that you could possibly have, because it is very hard to get taken for a ride or to sacrifice yourself to men and, you know, patriarchy when you are actually very occupied with loving, intimate, busy relationships with the women in your life or whoever your friends happen to be. And then the other thing obviously is to focus on projects and hobbies that align with your interests and that feel like you're moving productively forward in your life. Because when we succumb to hyperfixating on, say, a man, it can really detract from our goals. It can send us backwards in our life. But if we were like strongly focusing on the things that we value and on our hobbies and projects, we won't feel so resentful of the fact that we spent all that time hyperfixating, you know? The other thing I think is like, remember what men are like and remember what patriarchy teaches men, and that they are unlikely to be as amazing as you think. I think when you're hyperfixating on a man, remember that like his opinion of you and the way that he treats you does not have as much value as we are meant to place on men. So I'm kind of saying like take men with a grain of salt and make sure that you have still enabled yourself to dump a man at the first sign of disrespectful behavior. That's it for this Q&A. Thank you so much for listening. Find me on Instagram at summertothill. That's summer with an O, spelt the same way as you see in this YouTube channel. I can't wait to see you there.